Hi there, come on in. I'm Fred Trost, and I'm with one of the cutest little puppies you'd ever want to see. 7 weeks old. You know what he is? Well, I'll give you one hint. His name is Boss Hog. What kind of pooch would be named Boss Hog? Well, we'll give you another hint in just a minute, because it's Thursday night and time for Michigan Outdoors.
From the rugged shore and woodlands of the north, it's history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fisheries. To the farmlands of the southern counties, we'll look around again at all that waits the sportsman in the state of Michigan.
What we're trying to do here is get a blue tick coonhound to bay here. Come on, Gator. There you go. That's the sound. That's the sound that's music to the ears of coon hunters all around Michigan. Sue Newman holding the raccoon hide. Better get rid of that. He's going to get real excited here. And John Newman, they're both from Gibraltar, and they're members of the Blue Tick Breeders and Coon Hunters Association. Both of you are coon hunters, right?
Right.
Of course, raccoons are very abundant in this state. We have 38,000 raccoon hunters. They use all kinds of dogs, and they'll take 350 to 400,000 raccoons every year. Doesn't hurt the population at all. Puts a lot of meat in the pot, a lot of hides, and who knows if it prevents any damage to sweet corn or not. But anyway, coon hunting is quite a sport. But let's talk about these dogs. Sue, this little puppy is so cute, but I bet that a lot of people would say, I don't want to have a coonhound in the house. They'll probably run off every time they get a chance.
Yeah, I don't want a hound. They're stupid.
Yeah. Are hounds stupid?
No, they're smart. They're easy to housebreak. They're easy to train in the house. You usually get them once for whatever they're into, and then after that, they learn.
So they're just like any other dog. But, John, you have a field champion blue tick right here. That's
champion.
Gator, a night champion. That's an amazing thing. You folks have all sorts of field trials that nobody knows about. Most of your hunting is done at night. People don't know about it. But let's talk about blue ticks. There's Walker hounds, black and tans.
You got English,
red bones,
red
spots. Why blue ticks? Blue tick breed?
Well, everybody kind of got a preference. This is like a Chevy or Ford car or something. You know, and I just like blue ticks, you know. Really, they're more of a type dog that'll stick their nose to the ground and trail a track. They'll work a track up, you know, and a lot of dogs, like the Walker in particular, they throw their head in the air and run. But sit in the air kind of like a bird dog. You know, these dogs get right down on the ground and grab it out and then run it, you know.
Could you train a dog like this to hunt birds?
Probably not. They won't.
What about rabbits?
They won't pay a rabbit any attention at all, or these haven't. Some of them do now.
Isn't that something? How different dogs like a beagle will chase rabbits, these will chase raccoons, probably.
Well, the only thing is, dog here would take an interest in. We have a little bit of trouble out of them running deer, but we can usually break them pretty easy. They usually get a little excited over a fox, but you can break them off that. They're pretty straight, pretty natural coon hounds. Most of them are.
You keep them in the house?
Oh, I let them come in from time to time. If weather gets bad, well, I'll bring them in the back room, you know.
Do you train these dogs to heel or sit or anything like that?
No.
That's just something they don't need to know when they're out in the woods.
You've got so many other things to do with them instead of teaching them that. You have to make them know when you mean something. They tell by the tone of your voice when you mean it, when you don't. But you got so many other things to train them for. You want them to pay attention to you whenever you tell them to do something else more than that. Like with the show dogs now, I trained her to shore. You've got to work them daily.
You work a show dog daily?
Yeah, you work them daily. You can't just take them and put them on the bench and win with them. You got to work them.
Well, it's quite a sport that you folks are into. You know, there's a state coon hunting field trial championship coming up real quick.
Michigan State Championship.
I'm going to try to get our camera crew out there to see if we can't cover that, to show people that, you know, who's ever seen a coon hunting trial? Who's ever seen why this dog right here is a coon hunting champion? We're going to try to show that to you. Well, John, Sue, thanks for coming from Gibraltar, showing us these coon dogs, blue ticks. Cute little fellas. Hey, I'm going to, you talk about hounding an issue. I have an issue here I'm going to move on to, which is probably the hottest one. It's the hottest one going now and the hottest one for a long, long time in this state, Indian fishing. gill net fishing by the Indians. Now, we have letters, tons of letters on this, but let me read you what the problem really is and why there's so much controversy. Judge Fox is the judge who made the ruling on these 10 Indian treaties that gave the Indians in this state, certain Indians, rights to hunt and fish in certain areas. Now, this is what he said. The mere passage of time has not eroded and cannot erode the rights guaranteed by solemn treaties that both sides pledged on their honor to uphold. The Indians have a right to fish today wherever fish are to be found within the area of cession. The right is not limited as to the species of fish, origin of fish, the purpose of, use, or time or manner of taking. It may be exercised utilizing improvements in fishing techniques, methods, and gear, which is to say that Indians can pretty much do what they want, when they want, how they want, and taking whatever fish they want. That's why we have so many letters. We have gotten, the letters run 20 to 1, not in a lot of sympathy with that statement by Judge Fox. Dr. Howard Tanner,
Hi, Fred.
you're the director of the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. Here's letters that we are giving to the legislature, to MUCC, and to the DNR. What are you going to do about it? A hot issue.
We have a lot of hot issues, Fred. We're going to settle this one, too.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I got a few questions that people
Okay.
have been sending in here. What fish do sportsmen pay for in the Great Lakes? Are we paying for fish that Indians take?
Sportsmen pay for almost all of the fish that are stocked by the department, and nearly all of the salmon, brown trout, steelhead, and lake trout are stocked either by the department or in part by the department. To summarize that statement, 90% of the trout and salmon in the Great Lakes are paid for by the sportsmen of Michigan. I'm talking about Michigan waters now.
Now, how many of these, what percent are caught by Indians? And is this damaging?
Well, I'm not whether I can translate that precisely or not, but last year, the Indians caught a little over 40% of the commercial catch of fish in the Michigan waters, in the seeded waters that we're talking about. And that percentage has gone up consistently year after year. And that is what is disturbing to us, is that as they acquire additional capital, additional boats, nets, and so on, the efficiency goes up, and there so far has not been effective regulation.
Well, George Cornell says that the DNR statistics show that Indian fishing only accounts for 5% of the fish.
Mr. Cornell is mistaken.
But now, is that 40% of the fish taken commercially or 40% of the salmon and trout in the Great Lakes?
That's 40% of the fish taken commercially. You have to recall that the Indians are fishing primarily lake trout and whitefish. First whitefish and secondarily lake trout.
But they aren't taking 40% of the fish.
No, they're not. They do not fish for the sport fish.
Mm-hmm.
But what has happened in the areas that they have fished, in a number of areas that they have fished, they have simply overfished the stocks, and they've done so very quickly, and they've done it with gill net, which we're very familiar with, which I see you have one piece of one hanging here. And we have struggled to create a commercial fishery and a sport fishery that can coexist. And we've been working at this since 1965, and we have done it by eliminating gear such as the gill net. That's been the particular difficult part.
What about Wisconsin? George Cornell a week ago said Wisconsin has 250 non-Indian gill net fishermen.
Wisconsin has gill net fishermen. I don't know how many they have, but I know that they have drastically restricted the use of gill net, particularly in Lake Michigan. I can't give you the precise figures on it.
Okay, this percentage thing is quite a concern because the Indian representatives say that we are taking such a small percentage of fish, but don't the sportsmen and the DNR say, yes, but in the areas that we like to fish, you're really cleaning them out?
Well, the percentage thing, and I didn't hear what the other side has said, but what I think they may have been referring to was statistics back of 77, 78. And they're talking about all of the fish taken in all of the Michigan waters. I'm talking about the fish in the seeded waters, the waters that relate to the treaty, and I'm talking about their very rapidly expanding commercial capability and the expansion of the areas in which they're fishing. And with the history that we've had with gill net of non-Indian commercial fishermen, We can clearly predict where it's going, and we see this catch escalating. We see no limit on numbers of Indian fishermen coming in. We've limited the non-Indian to 150, and we simply have an excessive amount, or we are very close to an excessive amount of commercial fishing.
So it's a big threat because there's no lid
There's no
in sight.
question in my mind, Fred, that based on everything we know, the problem is to be convincing as a prediction. It's very easy for me to write an obituary for a fishery. It's been done many times. What we're telling you is, as a prediction, that we must prevent this before it happens.
What, in a nutshell, real quick, what is going to be done?
We're going to negotiate a settlement which will separate their interests from the sport fishing interests. And that'll come to pass. You watch in the next few weeks, and we have a very good shot at achieving that.
Within the month?
Possibly.
By the end of June?
I'm an optimist, Fred.
Yeah.
And I've said this 100 times before, but I think we're close.
Okay, well, that's encouraging news.
Yes.
Encouraging news, that's all I
I
can say.
really believe that.
Okay, well, Dr. Tanner, we're going to be looking for that. Thank you very much. Now we're going to get over to another subject here, which is going to be wildlife. And our wildlife sketch this week brought to us by Glenn Dutterer and this week's special guest, Kathy Rustum, who's the editor of a magazine which you are probably not familiar with. It's called Tracks, and it's for school kids. And the wildlife feature of the week, who is it, Glenn?
It's the loon, the common loon of Michigan and much of North America.
People are going to say, hey, they've seen lots of loons on Michigan Outdoors.
From the cry, we get the term loony, crazy as a loon, and so it's often applied to people as well.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about the loon in just a second, but let's talk about this magazine that features the loon. It's a tabloid that goes out to what age group, Kathy?
Basically 4th through 6th grade students, but we have it sent to all ages, on to adults.
Okay, and this is something that's available for schools. There's probably a lot of material, Glenn, that goes out to schools about wildlife in Michigan.
No, I'm afraid there isn't, and there's nothing quite like Tracks, to my knowledge, anywhere in the nation. It's a rather unique publication.
Okay, well, let's sort of portray what is in Tracks this month about a loon. Speaking of the loon and where it lives and how it lives, let's go to some film, which I took up in the Sylvania Tract, a wilderness area. And loons aren't too common around the suburbs.
No, they're not. They're birds that are very sensitive to human disturbance. As soon as human activity picks up on a lake, loons seem to desert it, and their numbers, because of this, are declining in Michigan. This is excellent loon habitat. Notice the low, shallow areas covered with vegetation. Those are very important to loons because they need to climb up on a little island like you see there and nest right close to the water, because they have difficulty taking off from land. And so here you can see they can drop off of that nest and drop right into the water and then become airborne.
Well, their back legs are almost useless.
On land, as a
On land.
walker, they're not very effective, but they're excellent divers, and they use those legs to dive. And you can see these loons in the water are fantastic swimmers, and in the air, strong, rapid flyers.
Okay, well, that's sort of a sample of what is in Tracks this month. What we just told you, school kids can read. Let's go to another aspect of the loon. As it says in here, it's named the loon because of its woo in the evening. Right? That wasn't bad, was it?
That was very
Let's
good.
go to some authentic sounds of a loon right now, and these are ones.
And what you're hearing now is the courtship cry between the male and female, and this is a cry that's common on northern lakes throughout all of North America.
Okay, now another one is called the wolf cry. Here it goes. This is one that you don't hear as commonly as that. There it goes.
But it's probably the one that many people recognize because it's commonly included in stories about northern lakes that we see in movies and TV.
And here's one coming up that few people have heard, and I'm not sure would care to hear. Picture yourself in a tent at night. Ooh. If that baby starts sounding off like that when I'm in a tent in the middle of the night in the middle of the wilderness. Crazy as a loon.
Crazy as a loon.
That's what this is all about. Well, Kathy, Tracks. Now, this magazine, you feature a different wildlife critter species every month, but this is through the school year.
September through May.
Okay, and looking through it here, we can see a variety of features that kids, upper elementary, a lot of age groups would be interested in. Turtles, mosquitoes, coming up very soon. There's some turtles right there, some garden friends, sun safety, and the vocabulary words are put here in bold type.
Yeah, that's so both the students and the teachers can identify them. Some of them are actually sounded out phonetically, and that's so they can be used for vocabulary lists, or if the students are unfamiliar with them, the teachers can emphasize them.
Okay, well, Trax is very inexpensive for a club or group to sponsor, and this is, what, the basic way that you fund this through Michigan United
Yeah, the
Conservation Club?
majority of our subscriptions are actually donated by sportsmen's groups, conservation groups, and individuals to the schools. They're given as a gift, which is tax deductible. So we accept any sponsors who are interested.
And we'll get these put in schools through Michigan United Conservation Clubs, and you think this is a pretty good deal, huh, Glenn?
I think it's excellent, not only does it teach about wildlife, but then it becomes a reading and teaching tool to teach those kinds of skills, so it has a lot of utility.
Okay, well, if anybody wants to write to us here at Michigan Outdoors, we'll put the address up a little later. Write to us, and you'll send them a free copy, Kathy?
We sure will.
Of Trax Magazine. Well, very good. Thank you very much. That's an interesting segment. Now we're going to get on to another thing that Michigan Outdoors is all about, those big fish in our Trophy of the Week. It's called Trophy Report. Dick Swan's Light Line Steelhead Tournament was a success 3 weeks ago, despite a poor run in the rivers. And all the way from Texas, Ernie Stoutner, the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, came to fish with Dick, and he took a 6-pound steelhead on 2-pound test in the Betsy. While big Cowboys defensive lineman John Dutton caught an 11-pound 2-ouncer. Light lining works. Dick Swan put them into steelhead, and these Texas boys had a great time. But you'd think, with all the Michigan steelhead anglers, that one of our local boys would win the light lining tournament. But here are the winners. Now, their faces are probably as familiar on Michigan steelhead streams as anyone else's, because they do spend a lot of time up here. But Bob Krasula and Don Gruzwinski are from Toledo, and they took first and second place using 2-pound test line. That's tournament test, which will only support 1.5 pounds of dead weight. They both use Swan noodle rods, but on rare occasions, like during this tournament, they disagreed on which stream would be best, so they split up, with Bob heading to the Platte and catching the #1 fish of the tournament, 13-pound 3-ounce steelhead, a couple more pounds, and that would have been a world record on 2-pound test line. Now, Don went to the Rogue River near Grand Rapids. He didn't do as well as Bob. Don's steelhead was only 11 pounds 12 ounces, but it was the #2 in the tournament nonetheless. As you can see, they were guests on Michigan Outdoors 2 weeks ago, but that show didn't run in Detroit due to their auction, and I wanted to show our Detroit and Toledo friends that their neighbors did bring home the honors. Now, last year in the spring, a Menominee whitefish weighing 1 pound 4 ounces was caught in Grand Traverse East Bay by local Ken Eater fishing with spawn at 10:30 in the morning. Now, they might be small, but Menominee whitefish are tasty. Now, here's an April walleye from last year caught by Bill Miller of Warren. Walleye are active at night. Bill caught this one at 2 a.m. fishing the St. Clair River with a pencil plug, 8 pounds 4 ounces. And another St. Clair River walleye, 2 ounces larger than Bill's. This one was caught by Larry Hannafan of Algonac. Larry was trolling a flatfish in the south channel of the St. Clair River. This one hit at 4 in the afternoon. And here's another trophy that fell for a flatfish, trolled at 4 in the afternoon. This time it was an 18-pound, 11-ounce lake trout cruising Lake Michigan off Frankfort. His boat is the Lucky Cuss, and so is Ken Schlemmer from Ann Arbor. That's a dandy laker. And one more trophy taken at 4 in the afternoon down off South Haven on May 2nd of last year. 20 pounds, 2 ounces, David Keene steelhead was the 5th largest reported in 1981. A tiny tad was the magic lure. And here's some tape provided by WNEM Channel 5 in Saginaw of Don Marciniak's 25.5-pound brown trout he caught recently off Point Lookout near Au Gres. Trolling in 8 feet of water with black and gold rapalas, it hit at daylight and battled for a half an hour. Now, that was their first and only fish of the day, but a real trophy, so we'll make Don Marciniak and his fishing partner Larry Setkowiak our master anglers of the week. And those fish that you saw were caught recently, either this year or last year at the same time, so you can go out and catch fish like that too. Opportunity is there in Michigan. And speaking of opportunities, Frank Mertland from Detroit Chapter Safari Club, you have something to offer some young person in the Detroit area, an experience that they won't forget. What is it?
Yes, Fred. Every year, the Detroit chapter of the Safari Club sponsors a young person to the American Wilderness Leadership School.
And of course, people say, well, what the heck is that? Julie Knight was your sponsoree last year who
That's correct.
went out west out to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Let's let Julie tell us about what it's like out there and what the school is all about. Nice country, huh?
It's beautiful.
The mountains, wildlife, but, you know, when you got out there, what types of things did you learn? What is this Wilderness Leadership Training School all about?
Conservation. You learn about the different types of animals. The,
Activities and things you probably never done
yeah.
before.
Oh, never. It was definitely an experiment.
Are you sort of an outdoors hunting and fishing type of person, Julie?
Not really, but I enjoy the outdoors. I don't hunt.
But you fish, camp?
Yeah.
But you wanted to go on this last year.
Oh,
You got
yeah.
your application into the Detroit chapter of Safari Club, and there are some of your compatriots out there floating down the river, whitewater trips on rubber rafts. Boy,
That raft trip looks like a ball. I'd like to do that.
There you go, Frank. I can see you right now,
I'm not so sure I want to do that.
right up the face of that cliff. You did that, Julie?
Yeah. That was...
When they confronted you with this and said, Julie, we're going to put you on the side of a cliff, what did you say?
Great.
Great, yeah. But what do you think of it now?
I loved it. I want to do it more.
Oh, well, that's terrific. That's
Definitely.
rappelling. Of course, that builds up your confidence.
Oh,
in
yeah.
doing new
When you
things.
do that, you can do anything.
What about the camping? Did you spend a lot of time in the wilderness?
We went on a 4-day hike. We ate dried food. Every day we hiked to a different place. We went up fishing.
Sleeping under the stars?
Oh, yeah.
Did you do all of this in big groups?
Yeah.
I thought you had an over or something by yourself.
Oh, well, that was one night for about 22 hours. They gave us a cup of water and
Sent you
put
off
us
by
by
yourself?
ourselves with our journals.
With your journals
We
to
wrote
write.
and found out about ourselves and the wilderness and...
Boy, that sounds terrific. A lot of new friends you made and things you learned about yourself. That's the American Wilderness Leadership School out there in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Well, Frank, this is basically limited to 10th and 11th graders?
Yes, we prefer to have young people that are in the 10th or 11th grade, 15 years old, and at least.
And just a desire to do something like this.
That's right.
Don't have to be rich, don't have to be poor. You don't have to hunt or fish. It just depends on how your application turns out.
That's right.
You're
We
gonna
think
select
it's
somebody.
a learning experience.
If you would like to do that, if you'd like to do what Julie did last summer, write us here and we'll send you an application. Just send it to Michigan Outdoors.
Well, Fred, last Saturday I was a guest at the 4th annual Chuck Muir River Crab Salmon Stakes in St. Clair. The weather was perfect and the turnout the largest ever. Fishing started at 6 a.m., ended at 1, and by late Saturday afternoon, more than 300 anglers weighed in over 1,700 pounds of fish. The salmon run early in the St. Clair River, and on this May 1st, some unbelievable catches were brought in. Captains and crews of the different boats competed fiercely for the top skipper award, and different clubs from around the area fished hard to win the coveted Club Division trophy. And there was something for everyone at the Salmon Stakes, like for Rob Helzer, who tied for first in the Coho Division, and 11-year-old Mark Cooley, whose 12.5-pound brown trout took second place in the Children's Division. But the event held something special for George Taché, who caught this 18.5-pound Chinook and won first place in the tournament. The River Crab Salmon Stakes proved that St. Clair is a great place to try one's skill with a rod and a reel.
Well, we don't have reports of a great weekend, but it should be a good one if we're judging by the weather conditions. So, a lot to do this weekend in Michigan Outdoors. Get out there and enjoy it. And for more information on subjects you saw on tonight's show, write to us. We'll send you details on how to join the new Michigan Outdoors Club and receive this information every month. Write to us at Michigan Outdoors, Box 1, East Lansing, 48823. Next week, we're going to feature a taxidermist, pike fishing tips from Stan Levency, that long-promised pheasant recipe, and a lot more right here on PBS.
From the rugged shore and woodlands of the north, its history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fisheries. To the farmlands of the southern counties we'll look around again, and all that waits the sportsman in the state of Michigan. And sometimes when the moon brings out the diamonds in the snow, and the stillness of the forest lies encased in Arctic cold, the wind might whisper through the trees, listen if you can, it tells you of the beauty in the state of Michigan.